Good afternoon and welcome along to Destination Wellbeing. My guest this afternoon is Oonagh Kelly. Oonagh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And Oonagh and I will be talking all things pregnancy and birthing this afternoon. So a while back, probably much earlier in the year and towards the end of last year, we had done a series between fertility and we'd done some breastfeeding, and we'd also done some post-birth trauma interviews as well, and people who specialise in that. But this is the first time that we've actually, I think, talked about pregnancy and birthing and how positive an experience that can be, and really for women how and couples how they can create a really positive environment as well. And it's something through my work that I'm really passionate about, and that passion has certainly radiates from Oonagh as well, in both her work as a midwife and as a Lazy Daisy birth instructor. So thanks a million for joining me, Oonagh.
Thank you for inviting me.
And
pleasure.
I know I've just a reminder viewers that if they are watching in today, that if they have any concerns about their own health and well-being, that they always seek the help of their medical practitioner through their doctor, their health visitor, or the services that are available through the hospital and that as well, because that should always be our first port of call. And but there's lots of other things that women can do for themselves as well that can support them on their pregnancy and their birth journey, isn't it? And we're very used to I suppose the acceptance nearly, it's not even a viewpoint, there's almost an acceptance that birth needs to be difficult, and that it's going, isn't
we
there?
always hear the negative stories.
Yes. And I think that in some cases that maybe can be, of course the negative stories are there, so they're there to be heard, but often maybe women who've had a positive experience can sometimes feel, well, I better not share my story in case I undermine or offend anybody else. They don't shout about it. Well. We don't shout about it, but that's so true with, you know, if we go to a restaurant and we have a negative experience, we tell everybody.
Absolutely.
And we don't shout about the positive ones that we have just as much. So, but your journey into the work that you do now, we just talked, I suppose it has been something that has evolved rather than with a plan.
Absolutely. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, you know, and I'm delighted where I am, you know. I've been working as a midwife now for 4 years, and just at the later end of last year I came across the Lazy Daisy chain, and there was a girl that had taken the classes. It was very popular over in Scotland and England, and there was a girl, Julie Rogers, that had taken it over to Northern Ireland, and Jess Higgins. They were the first two to bring these classes to Northern Ireland. So I got on board and I went over to Scotland for training, and I bought the franchise for the Newry, Mourne and Armagh area. So now I run active birth classes in Newry on a Thursday night in LC and Wellness Centre. I just started in February, so I have to say they're going really well, really popular, and lots of positivity coming out of them. The women are really enjoying them. It's a 6-week course that I run, and during that 6 weeks we work on movement, on breathing, on relaxation and education around birth.
Okay, so movement is actually allowed in birth?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we look at some of the images, you know, if we're looking at some of the programmes and stuff on television, it's like, well, woman on her back and baby appears.
Absolutely.
And,
very quickly, especially in the likes of television programmes.
So, yeah, very, the soaps are classic for that, you know, or it happens in the most dramatic scenario in
the middle of a pantomime or something, absolutely,
But, you know, so even the word movement in birth and during labour is something that can be quite new to people.
The reason I'm so passionate about it, as I say, I work as a midwife, but I've seen women coming in labour and they're so frightened and so fearful, and anxiety levels are so high that they just hold themselves so stiff that they're afraid to move. Do you know, so my classes are all about encouragement, movement, and encouraging a good active birth, you know, and being upright as much as possible, especially in the early stages, you know. And research has shown that an active birth reduces the length of labour. It can also reduce how painful it is. There's so many benefits, you know, of being an active birth.
I mean, there's the prevention of episiotomies, and there's so many things.
There's so many positives surrounding being active.
I suppose the benefit of not just having an active birth necessarily, or going through that approach, but in the run up to that, women spending time in their pregnancy focused on preparing their bodies for giving birth. I read a quote on the back of a book, and I'm going to miss the I can't remember the author of the book, but it's the Gentle Birth book. And the quote on the back page, which I just happened to catch the other day, was very often women spend more time preparing nurseries than they do preparing their bodies.
Absolutely.
And yet
absolutely.
it's their body that's going to give birth.
Do you know, everybody says like your wedding day, you spend so long preparing for your wedding day, do you know, and you spend so much money, do you know, but they don't prepare for the most important of becoming, that transition from becoming a woman to a mother.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? A lot of people don't prepare for that.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
I suppose that's maybe been because there's been no real thought about it. There's a tendency, and I've heard it amongst many friends and that who've had maybe, oh, well, sure, I'll just go with the flow.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, going with the flow means what I've, again, from my experience, and I'm sure you've way more of it than I have, is that fear, because going with the flow is okay up until the moment when actually everything starts to change. The membrane breaks and you know, or the waters go and all of that happens, and suddenly it's like, oh, hold on, what experience have I got of this? Well, I remember seeing on such and such in a programme that this is what happened at this stage. So the memories then kick in that which are negative a lot of the time.
That's so we work on muscle memory. So over the course of 6 weeks, and a lot of people actually find it beneficial to come to 2 terms of my classes. We actually work on muscle memory so that on Labour Day, when you know, we're getting excited and stuff, and the baby's starting to make its journey into the world, our memory kicks in, and it's in our subconscious mind, so that we know what to do. It's you know, it's like getting into a car and driving. You know what to do because you've prepared for it, and it's in there. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, it becomes, it's so much a part. It's like when we eat, the body just digests the food. It doesn't think about it. We know that that's what's going to happen. Or we go into a new environment, because I think one of the things is as well, many women aren't even familiar with the environment that they go into. So as you talk about the subconscious mind, the subconscious mind is saying, hold on a second here, I've never been here, I don't know who these people are, this is a new experience for me, and somebody wants me to relax.
Yes, exactly.
That's all supposed to happen.
Adrenaline
and
is at the height.
going, and the brain is processing new sights, new signs, and I suppose that's often where women maybe are progressing very well through labour at home, and then they can go into the hospital environment and things slows down. But that period of slowing down is just an adjustment in the brain, really, isn't it? It's the brain starting to work out, is this a safe place for my baby to be?
Absolutely.
Or is my baby safer in here at this minute in time, because I'm not so familiar with the surroundings?
So it's just all, the class is just about educating women about, you know, about the process and what basically the biggest organ in our body, the uterus, and what it's actually doing on Labour Day, and how important it is to fuel that with oxygen, you know, and and keeping it hydrated, and how important that is, you know, to improve our birth journey.
And the movement as well, because there's nothing in the body that works when it's stiff and still. And
we're closing our body down by holding it stiff, and we're closing our body down with fear. You know, I love I don't know whether you've ever seen Frozen, the Disney movie, or not.
I'm well versed with some of the songs. I never sat down to watch it.
The little part in it, and I just think it's lovely, where the trolls are taking away the ice, and he says to the prince, fear is the enemy. Yeah, and that's, you know, and it's so true for every aspect of our life.
So much our fears, and Susan Jeffers in her book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway talks about fear being false expectations appearing real, and certainly for a first-time mummy, it is a false expectation, because you've never done it before, so you don't know what to expect. You know. And I think as well, there's often when we talk about, you know, there's an image that goes around Facebook that is probably one of the ones that if I could get whoever shares it, I'd be like, where it talks about the pain that a woman goes through in birth is the equivalent.
I've seen that. I know the one you're talking about. Yes,
it's breaking every bone in your body 400 times or something. But what we forget then is that to counteract all of that, you've endorphins, you've oxytocin, all of that being naturally produced by the body, which by being active and being relaxed and breathing correctly.
Endorphins are 200 times the strength of good old morphine, would you believe?
Yeah, that's, you know, and yet we and they can't be produced. Yeah,
we have the tools to birth. So so it's just about encouraging women and empowering them to use the tools that they have, you know, and for them to have a positive birthing experience.
You know. And, you know, I think one of the things that I'm full of quotes and cliches today, but another one that I love is your body knows how to give birth, it's your mind you have to convince, and that's where your muscle memory and all of that can take place.
It's all about being open, you know.
and making sure that even the words and the language around birth can be so important for the association, because words mean something to us,
yes,
wherever
completely.
we are, don't they? There, and I know for a positive birth, you know, we want to avoid words such as pain and things like that, because it just doesn't lend itself to supporting a woman.
During the classes and stuff, I would use like the term like tightenings and pressure and contractions and powerful, you know, powerful contractions. But I always try to stay away from that word that you mentioned there.
Yeah, keep it out. And I know whenever we've chatted quite extensively about birth, it's the preparation time through active birth classes, and there's lots of other things that women can do through pregnancy. I know I was reading a post the other day about the importance of swimming even can be so beneficial for pregnancy. And it's maybe a stage where women are feeling quite conscious in swimming suits and things like that as their body's changing. But that's, again, it's about being active and moving all of those parts of the body. There's pregnancy yoga, but I think that in that environment of being with other women as well, who are at the same place.
Whenever you come to my classes, I join you in just a support group, then a closed group on Facebook, so you have support 24 hours a day. You know, there's always somebody on, and it's peer-to-peer support, so important as well. You know, it really is an experience, and it's only people that go to the classes that have access to this private group. Brilliant. You know, so it's really good from that point of view. Yeah, to
have that support. Both, and as you say, that's 24/7, so you've got your class, you've new friends, you've people who are at the same stage of life as you, who are going through the same things.
Absolutely. And what I find now as well, I also offer like baby classes, so my birth and mummies are following through to the baby classes, and we're just building up a lovely wee community. You know,
I think that takes us back to where life was, where, you know, 40, 50 years ago, women had that sense of community in their, just naturally, and maybe because there was a lot more women having babies.
Exactly.
So there was nearly always, or not a lot more women having babies, but having a lot more babies.
Yes.
And so there was nearly always somebody going to be pregnant, whereas often people can find themselves that they're the only one of their friends in their immediate friend circle, depending on age and depending on where they live and how close they are to others as well. And then so there's the preparation beforehand, which allows for an active birth and allows all of that peer support and getting the mind and putting those images even into the brain that this is what happens, because often now women are maybe working through pregnancy as well,
and empowering women as well, you know, to know that they can do this, you know, that they have the tools in their body to do this. But yes, as you say, they're working maybe up until 36, 37, 38 weeks, and they're not taking time out for them. They're not taking time out to relax, so they're maybe going into labour when they're absolutely exhausted before they even start to labour. You know, and labour is hard on the body. You know, it takes a lot out of women. You know, so they need like this element of relaxation, you know, just to give them a wee bit of time out and time to even bond with their baby, bond with their bump. Yeah. You know.
That's such an important stage. And then the preparation, I suppose, for Labour Day, and I love that word, you know, because it gives such a, I mean, I instantly try to say it in an American accent, even if it's only in my head, Labour Day weekend, you know, there's that side of it. But I think there's a lovely sense of celebration about that. But there are things then when we talk about memory and things as well. So things like smells and sounds and
and even music
and, you know, and familiar colours and blankets and things like that, that all can create for somebody almost like a home from home feeling, that the brain then, the body and the baby.
One of the elements as well, Joanne, just when you mention things like that I've come across is people say, am I allowed to bring that into the hospital? Of course you are, it's your labour.
Yes, yeah.
Of course you're allowed to bring your music in and something that's familiar to yourself, and you know. And
I think in the hospital bag, that's one of the things to remember is to have music, that because the baby responds so well to music as well.
Especially if it's something that they've been used to, you know, throughout while in utero. You know, it'll have a relaxing effect on the baby. You know, and on mummy and daddy. You know, we can't forget daddies are so important. You know, in a supportive role as well. And
I know even a few years ago, I certainly would have been of the viewpoint, and not having been there, but in conversations, I would have chatted about, you know, really, I'm not sure if when the day comes, whether I would want a partner there. More from the perspective of and I suppose a male partner, obviously you'd want somebody there supporting you, but I remember thinking, you know, I'm not quite sure how easy that is on them to feel really what I felt at the time, and having spoken to friends and different people, was that they were pretty useless. They really had no role, and I don't think that's a very natural place for a man to feel. I think they want to feel empowered, they want to feel supportive, they want, they're the protector, that's their male, as much as birth's about a woman's female instincts, that there's that male thing. But I've quickly changed that process around, that an educated, supportive partner is so vital. But the key there is that they can feel that there's something they can do, and rather than feeling.
If they go through the journey with their partner, you know, through the pregnancy journey, or even like by doing a couples workshop or something along those lines, and they know, because it's all new to them too. They don't know what's going on, and they're putting, you know, they don't know either. So if they are educated and they know how to support her in her breathing and her movement, and helping her to relax, you know, and helping her to get through that transition stage, you know, from first stage to second stage, it can just be vital. It really can be so vital for the woman.
And so vital for the woman. But again, knowledge is key. Having spoken to various men, that can be such an amazing experience. It can be such for any couple, it can either be such a wonderful, amazing, empowering, awe-inspiring occasion, or it can be the complete opposite of that. But education and speaking to people and opening up conversations and being at classes.
It's also about, you know, getting the daddy involved, you know, so he's not just sitting at the side of the bed, you know, that he's actually taking part in the labour, you know, so he doesn't feel like he's, you know, just a spare part, you know, and that he shouldn't be there. Of course they should be there. They have such a vital role, as you've said before, you know, in the labour day, you know, so they can encourage, as I said, the movement and the breathing, and even the likes of helping with the TENS machine. I had my partner just pressing the buttons on a TENS machine, which really, you know, involved him.
Something.
Absolutely.
He felt something, and again, technology, men, you know, I'm being very stereotypical, but it's, you know, it's right up their street. That gives them something. I have to press this button, I know what I have to do, I can worry about that bit, and you do your bit, and it gives.
Although we have to be so careful. I had a gentleman a few years back who was telling his partner when the next contraction was coming with the iPhone app. That didn't go down very well.
No, I think there's times and places for phones, aren't there?
There's certain technology that we really shouldn't have in the labour ward.
Definitely,
you know, definitely.
And I know, again, speaking to a number of different women, I think phones are one of them that they find, you know, checking football scores while I'm telling you that everything's okay.
Everything's okay.
Yeah, just keep breathing. You keep doing what you have to do. Yeah, okay, I know now what the result is. And then very quickly, again, technology can come in when the baby is born, and that's another thing.
And sometimes they maybe miss out on that vital moments of those precious moments that they're never going to get back again because they're on phones.
What we can do, you know, I mean, I remember on a completely different scenario, but a young girl that I would work with, she would take photographs at football matches, and I remember her handing me the camera one day and asking me to take photographs, and suddenly I realised that I was missing so much of everything else because I was photographing the match through the camera.
Yes.
So I was missing the bigger picture because I was following one part of what was happening, and there's maybe a wee bit of that as well. That
and such an amazing day, like seeing your baby being born, you know, and especially if it's your first baby, like going from a couple to becoming parents, you know, it's life changing in such an amazing way.
That transition, that, as you say, you know, not just is the baby being born, but the parents are being born in that same environment, aren't they? That they're both really coming together. And so those vital moments as well, if we had some advice that we could offer to mothers and baby and fathers to make those precious. I know a lot of women are becoming very much aware of skin on skin and how important that is. And that's so important for the development of the baby.
Oh, it is, really is, especially for bonding, and especially for the encouragement of breastfeeding and things like that as well. You know, and as well, we need to think as well, if, you know, if mom's not able to do skin to skin immediately, that daddies can take part too. You know, at the end of the day, you know,
they're as much
as much of the part of the family unit, you know.
And that's just a matter of holding the baby close to their chest. And
I would always, if a mum's in theatre or something and she's not able to do skin to skin, I would always ask the daddy, does he want to, and just put basically put the baby up in underneath daddy's tub.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
it's
and
such
it's
a precious
lovely.
moment
Yeah.
again as
you know,
well.
Absolutely. And it's a nice bonding time for daddy when they're waiting on mummy to come back and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
and make sure that all's okay there.
Absolutely.
And then the baby just recognises the smell and
absolutely, and he'll recognise, you know, the dad's voice and the mum's voice, you know, as well.
All of that. We forget sometimes that all of that, they've been adjusting to all of that for 9 months, and that's all been part of their familiar environment.
I know, absolutely.
So it's you know, it can be such a precious moment, and then there are obviously women who don't have as positive an experience as they would want, isn't it? And but even when maybe a birth doesn't go exactly as a woman would have planned it to be, I think it can also be more positive for her in that scenario as well, can't it? When maybe she feels that the choices, that she's been part of the choices rather than...
Yes, exactly. As long as she's got informed choices, you know, and she knows, and she's made the decisions, you know, and she knows at the end of the day, everybody wants what's best for mum and best for baby, you know, and obviously there is situations where we need to go to theatre and there needs to be caesarean sections and also planned caesarean sections for various reasons, you know, and that's all part of...
part of life
and part of the birth process, you know, and there can all be positive experiences for families, you know.
I think the key word that I think makes, that you've used a few times today, is empowered.
Empowered, and giving them the confidence.
Yeah, that your body knows an awful lot more than we give it credit for.
Sometimes women, they're just so hard on themselves, they really are.
Yeah,
you know,
we can be beat ourselves up very quickly and very easily. And also I think surrender very quickly as well, what feels right within ourselves too sometimes. So it's getting that balance really, isn't it, for our lives. But empowered, I like that word, empowered. Whatever we do in life, whether it's birth, whether it's in work, wherever we are, if we can feel empowered, and that's something that I think is internal, isn't it? It's something that we feel.
It's just giving the woman the confidence, you know, and that they are amazing and their bodies are amazing and they're amazing, you know. And it's all just about relaxing the mind and opening your body up.
And allowing it to do what it knows
exactly
how to do.
It knows exactly how to do
the fact that it knows how to, your heart knows how to beat and your digestive system knows how to digest food. And for what often amazes me is that, you know, for 9 months, give or take, the whole process has been happening with very little input, and obviously now aware of maybe where there's been IVF treatment and things like that. But most of the development of the baby takes place without anybody really having any input to it, other than the mummy making sure that she's eating correctly and that her environment is safe and that all of those things. But for the vast majority, how all of those wee cells divide and become limbs and eyes and nose and faces and all of those things that all happen, all happens and nobody can do anything about it. It just happens nice and safely in there. And then the very last stage of that piece of the puzzle, then we start to worry about how's this going to happen.
How's this,
we don't think, how's this baby going to grow and develop, and all of those cells, how can those, you know, 2 cells become this complex, amazing baby who, what fascinates me even more is who looks like another member of the family, and how those cells know how to do all of that, and all that comes together.
It's just a complete miracle.
And it's a total miracle, and we trust the miracle, and we allow it to happen, and then suddenly we try to control the last phase, or we try to apply logic to something that's just not logical. There's no logic to it really, although science would say there's loads of science. And I read an article the other day, or I touched on it, which is the most natural birth can also be the most scientific. Absolutely. Because it's pure, it's true science.
Yes.
It's how science, or it's biology, and how that all comes in. And learning in the active birth classes those movements and all of that to come, that bring into play, and the breathing exercises and everything too.
Just unbelievable how powerful oxygen is. You know, it really is. You know.
And if we look at oxygen, oxytocin, we've all of those
all
links,
the hormones and stuff,
and all of those hormones, and the laughter hormone. I'd be talking to women often about you know, watching really funny films, because at that later stage, what you want to do is for your baby to know that the world's going to be safe and secure for them to come out, and humorous, and not watching these.
And not to worry about when you're going into labour, just to relax and, you know, and just go with it.
Yeah,
you know,
allow that all.
Although I think, you know, towards the end, the stages, you get millions of text messages, millions of Facebook messages going, any sign of this baby, any sign of this baby yet? And it does put pressure on women, you know, but, you know, that's just the society that we live in. Everybody's excited about a new arrival, aren't they?
Oh, we are. I mean, and that passion for, you know, everybody. I mean, I would talk to women too. Some who love having somebody feel their bump, and some who are like, oh my God, the next person that touches me, I'm actually going to, I could be committed somewhere for.
But people, you know, people, if you weren't pregnant, people wouldn't come up and touch your stomach. But when they see a pregnancy bump, they just feel the need to.
Yeah,
you know,
but I wonder, is that something that's deeper in a, you know, in a human instinct way, that's kind of, you know, this is another wee part of another part of our world or our society, and of maybe nurturing the mummy
and how amazing they are.
Yeah,
you know?
that maybe goes a wee bit wrong because maybe we see it as differently, and as you said, there's no other time in life where it's socially acceptable to
touch somebody, to just
say, well, you know, how's your stomach feeling? But in birth it can, and as I said, as many people love it as don't, isn't it? It's that mix between those, and society putting the questions on us, when's this baby due, and when's it coming, and more often than not, babies come when they're ready, don't they?
I know, but I just was so excited even to hear about, you know, when my Daisy babies are born, you know, the girls from my community, it's lovely to hear the news, you know, and whatever way their birth journey pans out, I'm there to support them, you know, and support them right through continuity of care, right through, you know, to the baby, you know, by baby classes, and even if they don't go to the baby classes, I'm still there for them.
Yeah, and they have their group as well, as you said then, so if you're not totally accessible for different reasons or whatever, there's somebody else there who's in the same place or recently has been.
Yeah, exactly. And I've also recently set up as well, Joanne, a pandas group with help from yourself, and just to support people with in the early stage, you know, and like if they're suffering from, you know, anxiety or around birth or anything like that, you know, just to provide support and just have a contact for them, you know, to you know, that it's okay not to be okay, and not to put so much pressure on yourselves.
And to, you know, to be aware in the early stages as well that you know, maybe just I'm struggling this a wee bit, and to chat out to somebody else who can maybe put that into perspective as well, because I think
we all talk about the baby blues and stuff, but you know, the baby blues can sometimes go on a little bit longer, you know, and
that translation across, but sometimes it can be enough to say, you know what, I'm struggling with this whole, even just lack of sleep.
Exactly.
Story.
Tiredness really plays such a part, you know, when you're so tired.
And I think we maybe look to where, you know, I would be aware of when we're in our 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, that sort of age group, where biologically that's where the body's saying, you know what, this is, use this time now to be having babies. Socially, that's not where we're at, and that's not where society has us at. But when you look back on using those late nights where it didn't matter whether you had 2 hours of sleep or whether you know, it didn't matter, you still got up, you went out 2 or 3 nights in a row, you really didn't need sleep. We
should have been having our babies then, yes.
As well. And I know that, I mean, conscious obviously that I'm in my 30s and haven't done that journey yet, but I think, you know, again, that's where the body was figuring all of that story out, that it was meant to happen. So now maybe when women are, not in all cases, but in cases where women are that bit older, it is recognising that, you know what, I actually do need a bit more rest and a bit more sleep and a wee bit more support.
Or maybe to sleep just even when the baby's sleeping, you know.
Which I think works great from what I hear first times, yes,
a little bit different when you have second and third and maybe fourth babies, you know, and school runs and all that.
All has to still go on, but it still should be, and yet, you know, we've, society is, again, using the word society, but to hear of the positive experiences of birth is lovely, and it's so refreshing and brilliant. And whether that's a mummy who has had a cesarean maybe, or has had the beauty of their baby being placed on her tummy afterwards while everything else is happening, or all of those elements, it can be so beautiful and so empowering in different ways for every woman, can't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But again, I think the key elements, if we're to sort of summarise, would be support.
Support.
Yeah.
Empowerment.
Yeah, active and moving and that repetition.
Yeah,
and I think where you were
yeah.
talking about your classes being over 6 weeks and things like that, and women often doing a second set. Repetition is
muscle
key.
memory.
It's muscle memory, and you're getting
it in there. So you know the moves to do.
Yeah.
You know when to
automatically.
Yeah,
it's not what do we do now? Because
you don't when you go to get into a car, you don't think about it. It's just automatic.
Yeah, you know where to switch it on.
Exactly.
You know how
and you
to
know
do
when
all of that.
you know when you need to put the accelerator down. You know when you need to brake. Exactly.
Yeah, but the first time you didn't know any of that stuff, and that's where the preparation can come in.
Absolutely.
And the analogy between driving a car is great because, you know, we don't just hand people keys of cars and tell them on you go. There's a car, work away. We make sure they have lessons and they have support in the run up to that.
Absolutely.
And so the classes that you hold are in Uri.
Yes, I run on a Thursday evening now. They're all pre-booked. And now my October term's pretty much booked up at the minute.
Brilliant, which is a great sign that women are spreading the word and they're sharing it and they're needing it.
Absolutely,
they need that
brilliant.
Support.
You know, so I have spaces now for the November term. Obviously with Christmas, that's only a 5-week term.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe Christmas.
We're talking
I know
Christmas
already. I know it's scary. Yes, I run them in Uri on a Thursday night in LC and Wellness Centre, but there is classes all over Northern Ireland. And there's ones in Banbridge, Lisburn, Coleraine, Belfast, and Mid Ulster,
and throughout the UK. And wherever you are in the world, active birth classes are definitely worth looking up because you get that right support and love and just kindness as well, and an opportunity to discuss and let go. We mentioned fear in there as well, but the more we talk about fears, the smaller they become.
Yeah,
really,
it's a complete safe place. You know, we're no questions stupid.
Yeah,
you know, complete safe place.
It's fantastic, and I mean, amazing work to be doing because
I'm just passionate about helping people. I just want to make a difference.
You know, the experience for both mummy and baby. I believe is lifelong. You know, that experience that a baby has in their birth can shape right through their whole early development years, and the experience that the mummy and the daddy have at that level as well.
Exactly. I just want to support the whole family unit, you know, and just try and make a difference.
Nurture and support that. Well, I think definitely you're doing that work, so
well
done.
Trying.
And to anybody who's watching in, Oonagh has a great Facebook page as well, so it's worth checking out her Facebook page. And that is Lazy Daisy and
Yuri Moore and Armagh, birthing and baby.
Birthing and baby. So thanks a million for watching in and for being part of our show today. And if you have any questions, please do get in touch with Oonagh through our Facebook and through our website as well. And I'll be back next week on Destination Wellbeing with a new exciting guest as well. So we look forward to having you all watching in next week.